I think we can start with the session then. So, I'll begin with
We are
the first
just
thing.
a second. I'm just trying to go live on you. Yeah, we are live, I guess. Yeah.
Great, great, great. So, Vishal, first thing, a very good evening to you and a very, very good evening to everyone present here. And can you start by telling us why is this session important?
Before I begin, I want to ask everybody a question. You can reply in the chat box with your answers. I'm going to ask a few questions, so I want everybody to reply in the chat box. Uh, do you like to help others? Yes, of course. Yes, yes. Very nice. And who doesn't? Very nice. And how does it make you feel? Happy, good, good, and happy, blissful, content, elated. Amazing. Um, To those who didn't reply with a yes, I would ask, what if this person was somebody whom you knew? If it was your friend, or if it was from somebody from your family, or somebody you care for, or somebody in your office, what if it was that person? Would you still do it or won't do it? Like help them. If there was any way, you could make life better for a particular group of people. In some cases, save them from being bullied, teased, abused physically, mentally, being thrown out of their houses, and in some cases, raped, and from suicide. If you could save a particular group of people from all these things, and all you had to do is a little bit of show of solidarity, would you do it? Yes, right? We would all do it. So, Brianna, today's session is about how we can do it. I'll tell you more about it as we proceed in the session. So, Brianna, that is what we are going to do today. We are going to learn how we can make lives easy for a particular group of people, how we are going to be, saving people's life and saving them from, being raped or being killed or committing suicide. That's what we are going to do today.
Wow, wow. I think everybody here is happy to help, and they'll be so much happier to know that they could do it. I mean, by doing certain small things here and there, and you are here to guide all of us. So I think we should begin there. Great. So, Vishal, should I address the second question then? I'll
Yes,
go ahead.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So, I think it would be great if you could enlighten all of us about the Pride Month and let the audience know about everything that they need to know about this, everything they need to know about the same.
So, Pride Month is usually observed in the month of June every year to commemorate or honor the Stonewall riots that happened in America. Now, what are Stonewall riots? In 1969, in the month of June, the local police in New York raided a gay bar called Stonewall Inn, and they arrested, beated up a lot of trans people and a lot of people, other people from the LGBTIQA community. Next morning, to protest against this, physical harm or this act of hatred against the community, a lot of people protested on the streets, and riots broke out. Now, these riots or these protests, was a watershed moment in the rights of LGBTIQA movement. These riots were the starting point from where the discussion started about LGBTIQA rights, and that is why it's important. So every year in the month of June, we celebrate Pride Month. We commemorate or honor the riots that happened, which led to the rights of LGBTIQA to be discussed. And this particular moment in history did not just bring about a change in America, but all over the world. It started a discussion around communities, and how it's not a disease, or it's not something that people choose, and that it is inhuman to treat us differently or discriminate against us. So to celebrate, to commemorate, and to honor these riots, Pride Month is celebrated all over the world. Now, what do we do during the Pride months? We host these discussions. Sometimes there are Pride marches where people walk on the streets with rainbow flags and music and dances. So basically, it is to create awareness about the plight of the LGBTIQA, about the rights of the LGBTIQA, and also to celebrate the success of how far we've come.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I don't think many of us here knew about this entire story and the history behind all of it. And wow, I am amazed to hear this. That's great. Okay. Vishal, could you please share your story with us and tell us something more about your journey? What made you, start taking webinars and telling people more about it?
Yeah, so I do what I do because of what happened 23 years ago. I'll begin at the beginning. When I was just 12 years old, my friends in school or around my house, they started teasing me. Somebody would call me a chakke, a hijde, and my friends wouldn't talk to me because I was a little different. I was a bit effeminate. I was not manly like all of my other friends. Now talk about a 12-year-old acting manly, like, and so because of my effeminate behavior, because I was not like the other boys, they used to tease me, abuse me. There was this very horrific incident what happened to me in fifth standard, that some seniors tried to pull down my pants and see whether I was actually a boy. So this is what my childhood was like, and I don't remember there was a single person in my family, my friend circle, or in school who wouldn't have told me, why do you walk like this? Why can't you walk straight? Why don't you act a little bit manly? So imagine what I went through as a child, being told that the way I act and behave is wrong. So that was my childhood. When I went to college, usually what happens in Kolhapur and Maharashtra, after SSC, you go to college and you change. Like I was going from one institute to another. And I thought, let me take things in my hand. I'm going to college. It's a fresh start for me. I decided that I'll change myself. I'll act a little bit more manly and, behave so that people would accept me and love me. And that is what exactly I did in my college. But I managed to make some new friends and have a friend circle. But what happened is, even after pretending to be so manly and all this, one day one of my friend came and asked me, Ki, Vishal, are you gay? And this is year 1999, and I personally didn't know what the word gay meant. And I told him that I don't know what it means. And he said, it's okay. He left it at that. But what happens is the way in which he used the word gay was as if it was some disease. So I went online. There was no Google back then. There was Yahoo search, and internet used to be terribly slow back then. So I typed GAY, enter, and boom, I read about what does gay mean. It meant that men who are emotionally, romantically, and physically attracted towards other men. And I instantly identified ki, yes, this is me karke. But then I again remembered the tone in which he had said the word gay, and I tried to find out more about it. And what I found out was that the society was not very accepting regarding homosexuals, that there was a lot of prejudice and hatred against the people of the community. And I tried to find out what could be done about this, like, was there anything I could do to change this? Because now I realized I was a part of community and I had to do something about it. I couldn't be subjected to this prejudice and hatred all my life. And on reading more, I came to know that the reason behind this prejudice, the reason behind it hatred against the community, was reason for any other prejudice or hatred. See, what we fear, what we don't understand, we fear. What we fear, we hate, and we try to destroy it. So I was very young. I'm not claiming that I was very smart or anything, but what I felt in that moment while discovering all these things was that one solution that could help change all this is more people like me come out and spoke about themselves. If people met people like me and got to know us better, all their misunderstanding, misconceptions would go away. And that is the moment when I decided to come out. Now, I came out thinking that, I'm going to come out, I'm going to change the world. But the moment I went to my college and I told this friend that, yes, I am gay, he stopped talking to me. This friend stopped talking to me, and then so did all the other friends, and then I was being teased again when I would enter the classroom in college, and I would go try. There used to be separate rows for boys and girls, and then I used to go into the boys' row. Then the boys used to tease, go and sit with the girls. So there was more teasing, more bullying. There was an incident where some of the seniors, 20 seniors, they cornered me in a juice shop, and they bait me, they punched me, kicked me, and they were like, you are trying to you are a pervert, and you're trying to brainwash others around you to make them like you, and they would not understand that it is not something that you can change about anybody. But then all these things happened, so I went into depression. I thought of committing suicide. I even slit my wrist, but I was saved by my shop's worker, who happened to come down at my home when I did that. But after that, I decided, you know what, I'm not going to give up my life. I'm going to fight this. And I came out to my parents. My parents, although they did not accept my homosexuality immediately, were concerned about my depression and supported me in that moment. They did not shout at me or scream at me or did not judge me for my homosexuality. They kept that side apart, and they helped me recover my depression slowly. But then they had these slowly. I started the conversation, and they had everybody has these misconceptions. I know the lot which is sitting here might not have this now, but back then, and even still, lot many other people do. So they had this notion that it is a disease. And then I had to tell them it's not. World Health Organization, Indian Psychiatric Association, American Psychiatric Association has categorically stated that no, it is not a disease. They thought it's a choice. And then I had to tell them that if sexuality was a choice, when did you decide to be straight? You didn't, right? You simply are. So it's not a choice. Then they had these, I mean, not just my parents, but everybody used to come up with these arguments, okay, this is against our culture. And then I would tell them that, you know what, there are homosexual act etched in stone in temples of Khajuraho, and Ajanta and Ellora. Our history and mythology, Mahabharata speaks about a trans man who's a king, Shikhandi. So a lot of people had these misconceptions and preconceived notions regarding the company, which I had to keep on educating people around me. And that is when, after a lot of time, my family accepted me. And that is when my life started getting better. When my family started accepting me and supporting me in front of other people, is when I started developing a little bit more confidence. I took over my business. I got success in my career and everything. Now my life was going good, but everyone around me was not that lucky. I lost 3 friends to suicide over a period of 2 years. All 3 of them were gay, and all 3 of them were from Kolhapur. So when the third person committed suicide, who was only 19, me and 2 other friends decided that we have to do something about it. And this was in 2016. Then we decided, almost 15 years after I came out, and still I'm seeing that there are my friends who are giving up their lives because there's no acceptance in society. So we decided to do something about it, and we started this initiative called Abhiman. Is the Kolhapur's first community-based organization which works for the human rights and upliftment of lesbian, gays, transgender, and intersex people. It started as a safe space where people from the community could come, talk to each other, and we live lives where we are pretending to be somebody else in front of our family, in front of our friends, in front of our colleagues. So this Abhiman was started to create a safe space where we could be ourselves, share our problems, and come up with solutions together. Later on, we realized that just coming together is not enough. We need to sensitize and educate people outside the community so that it becomes easier for the people of the community. That is when we started going to police stations, media houses, colleges, and started sensitizing and educating people about different sexual and gender minorities. So yeah, this is my life story, and this is how it all began, and this is why I do what I do, to save people from killing themselves. There have been incidences reported where a lesbian in India, couple of incidents have been reported where a lesbian girl who comes out to the family, and the family thinks that just because she's never had sex with a man, that is why she thinks she's a lesbian, and they invite a male person, a man they know, to have sex with her. That is basically raping her so that she can be cured of her homosexuality or lesbianism. So this is what the community is subjected to. We have to struggle with our own identities because everybody around us is different. We are different. So there's a lot of internal struggle of accepting ourselves. Then it is about the fear and the anxiety whether people will accept us or no, or whether should I come out or no. And after that, how they will react, or whether I'm safe in this society after coming out, because there's no going back. So these are some of the issues. When we come out, parents throw us out of the house. Some parents, they are so ashamed that they kill their children. You've heard of honor killings in love marriages. Honor killings also happen with LGBTIQA people. So this is what is happening around, and this is what I am here or doing my bit to change this. And that's why I'm here, and that's my story, and that's why I do what I do.
Oh my God. I think that was, I don't know, we were all so shocked to hear. I mean, as a child, you were bullied by people in college, so many people told so many things to you. Still, you didn't give up. Imagine if one of us had to just, have to prove to people just so that we exist normally. I think that is simply not right. People today also find it so difficult, and this was like back in 1999. I mean, at that time, I think people must have not even known all of this. Is more power to you, Vishal, and I think with this, before we dive deeper, you can also familiarize people with a few terms, a few LGBTQIA terms. And in case some of us might know here, some of us may not. So if you could go ahead and let us know about them.
All right, I'll share screen for a minute, and I explain these terms with the use of a presentation. If you could just enable screen sharing for me.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah, just I think you can now.
Can you see the screen?
Yes, yes.
All right. So before we move on to inclusivity at workplace, there are a few terms that everybody needs to understand. First is biological sex. When we are born, depending upon our sexual and reproductive organs, our anatomical organs, and depending upon our hormones and other genitalia and internal reproductive structures, our biological sex is determined. Like if you're born with male sexual organs, your biological sex is male, internal and external organs. And if your internal and external organs are of female, vagina and all that, then you are female. What many people don't know that there are not just two biological sexes. There are some children who are born with external and internal sexual and reproductive organs which do not fall into the binary of male and female. These children are intersex. That is the I in the LGBTIQA. Now, if I have to tell you in short, what are some problems faced by intersex children? Most parents, abandon these children. They might leave them out of the temple, or they might invite people from Hijra community and tell them that, you know what, we have a child born which is of your community, and please take this child away. Those parents who do not abandon, some doctors, for the sake of earning more money, suggest parents that we will perform surgeries to these children and we'll make them either male or female. Now, these surgeries are done to these children without their consent, and these surgeries are also life-threatening, and sometimes it might damage them or make them disabled. So this is even before they've started walking. These are the problems that intersex children go through. Now, say that the parents accept the child, they do not abandon it, they do not perform any surgeries. Third thing that happens to them, the gender identity is imposed upon them. Now, I'll explain what gender identity is, but since we are covering I here, I'll just tell you ki, now this child might have the gender identity of a male or a female, but most of us are, the gender identity is imposed upon us even before we think about these things. They start dressing up in blue and pink. So that's the case with everybody nowadays. Gender identity is imposed upon them. They look at the children externally and assume that this would be their gender identity, and make them express or give them gender roles according to what they feel their gender identity could be. Apart from this, as these children grow up, if they've been abandoned, they do not have access to good health care, they do not have access to education, and since these things are not there, they do not have any employability skills, so they are forced to do sex work or beg or dance at weddings if they are part of the hijra community, or even if they are not. There is, of course, bullying, teasing. If you go into schools and institutions, you see there are toilets for men, there are toilets for women, but there are no toilets for intersex. There are no gender neutral toilets. So these are some problems faced by the intersex community. Uh, so that's the I of the LGBTIQA. Now, as a child grows up, when we are born, we don't have a gender identity. Our gender identity starts developing from the age of 2, 3. Now, what is gender identity? It's how one lives and experience their life. As a man or a woman, that is their gender identity. For example, if somebody is born into a male body and lives and experiences their life as a man, abiding by the gender roles and expression with what society ascribes to men, this person is known as cisgender. Technically, when the child is born, the nurse assigns a gender to the child looking at the biological sex and says that this is man. So if a person who's born into a male anatomy, I'm just simplifying this, these are not technical terms, and lives and experience that their lives as a man, this person is known as cisgender man. Similarly, if a person is born in a biological sex of a female and lives and experiences life as a woman, this person will be cisgender woman. Because majority of population are cisgender, we do not every time say that cisgender man, cisgender woman. We simply say man, woman. But there might be some people who might have been born in a particular biological sex, but might live and experience their life in different gender, like a person born with a biological sex male but lives and experience their life as a woman. This person would be known as transgender woman. Similarly, if there is a person who's born into a female anatomy but live and experience their life as a man, this person would be known as transgender man. Now, when these people try to reassign their bodies to their actual gender, what they identify as, once they do that, there's a particular surgical procedure, then these people are known as transsexual. Now, this term is not used very often nowadays. We simply call them man and woman. At the most, you will say that this person is man with a trans history, or this person is a woman with a trans history, because trans men are men, trans women are women. I know it might take a society a lot more time to evolve to address trans women and trans men as men and women, but I believe we can all start doing that. So, transsexual is a person who's undergone sex reassignment surgery to make their body consistent with the gender that they identify with. Now, as we saw, biological sex is from birth. Gender identity you start developing from the age of 2 to 3 years. When you hit puberty, when you come of age, and the time when you start developing sexual attraction, romantic attraction towards someone, that is when our sexuality starts showing. So if there is a person who's attracted to the opposite sex or gender, for example, if a man is attracted towards a woman and woman is attracted towards man, they are heterosexual. Uh, in common terms, we use the word straight, but we advise you not to use the word straight, because when you call heterosexual people straight, it seems like all people who are not heterosexual are crooked, or when you say that heterosexual people are normal, it means that people with alternate sexualities are abnormal. Homosexuals are people who are attracted towards same gender, gays and lesbian. Gay are men attracted towards men and female attracted towards female. Bisexual are people who are attracted towards both sexes. Asexual are people who might have little or no sexual attraction towards either of the sexes. Now, sexuality is not just 2 points. Just like biological sex is not just male, female, gender identity is not just man, women, and sexuality is not just gay and straight, heterosexual and homosexual. There are many identities between these. There are people who are non-binary, who do not identify with either of the gender identities. There are people who are gender fluid, whose gender identity might change from time to time. And there are many other sexualities and many other gender identities. Little bit you could do a research on your own. If you have any questions regarding other sexualities or gender identities, I'd be glad to explain those at the end of this session. But these are some basic things that and terminologies that we all need to know. Queer is a term which is an umbrella term, also an identity. As an umbrella term, queer is a term for all sexual and gender minorities. A lesbian is a queer person, a gay is a queer person, a bisexual is a queer person. Also, there are some people who do not want to identify with the identities that we just mentioned, but are more comfortable by simply saying, I am gender queer. So queer is an identity in itself also, and an umbrella term for all sexual and gender minorities. The most important thing that we all need to understand that biological sex, gender identity, and sexual orientation are not related. It is common that somebody who's born into the body of a male, biological sex male, will have a gender identity of a man and will be attracted towards a woman. But it is not necessary. Somebody who is born into the anatomy of male may or may not have a gender identity of a man. They might have a gender identity of a woman, or they might be non-binary or gender queer or gender fluid. And they'll be attracted towards either of the sexes or all of the sexes or none of the sexes. So all three are not interrelated. This is the most important thing for all of us to understand. Because a lot of people think that transgender are transgender people because they want to have sex with the opposite sex. A lot of people think that this is a gay man. He wanted to have sex with another man, and that is why he's becoming woman. That is not correct. Gender identity is developed at the age of 2, 3 when sexuality has not even started budding. So they are not interrelated, and gender identity is a separate issue and sexuality is a separate issue. Coming out term refers to telling the world about your sexuality or your gender identity or alternate sexuality. Like if you're not cisgender and heterosexual, and if you wish to tell the world about it, then that process is coming out. Now, the major problem in coming out is the fear of being rejected, fear of being ostracized, fear of being discriminated against, harmed, and all the other things that we mentioned before. Pink capitalism. Now, since we are going to be talking about inclusivity at workplace, it's very important to understand this term, pink capitalism. Every year, a lot of money goes into the system because of acceptance, because of expression of these gender and sexual minorities. If I am a gay man who's out and proud and is not scared to hide his sexuality, I don't have to confine to the gender norms, gender roles, or anything. I can express myself in so many different ways. So if I am accepted and I live my life the way I want to, directly or indirectly, it affects the economy. If you see, some gay men have we. I don't want to stereotype, but stereotypes exist for a reason. I spend a lot of money on clothes. I spend a lot of money on my skincare products. So if as somebody who's into business or somebody who's running organizations or corporates understand the buying patterns and everything, it could help them make money. So this term where you use this people's gender identity and everything for the economy is where this whole concept of pink capitalism comes. This is just an example of Puma. How for the Pride Month, Puma India, Puma International, Puma Sports have put rainbow in their DPs. And they've come up with a product line which is related to pride with rainbows and everything. So it's good for business. Being inclusive is good for business. We are going to talk about this more, why inclusivity is important at workplace. Also, I did a session with Puma, and I'm not advertising anything here, but we encourage companies to not just change their DPs and put rainbows, but actually have workplace protections for the LGBTIQA, and also, fairly compensate them if you are, taking their help to promote your brand and anything which they do. They've also hired openly lesbian sport person, Duti Chand. Have you heard of Duti Chand? Yeah, so she's a brand ambassador for Puma also. And the most important thing we all need to remember is that, at the end of the day, we are all humans. So stop sharing. So yes, I know this took a lot of time, but it is important that you understand these terms before you move forward.
Definitely, definitely. I think it was very necessary for all of us in case we had some confusions, regarding gender identity and sexual orientation, and terms like that, or biological sex. And I think you explained it all very, very well.
I
And
hope
so
so.
we come. Yes, sure, sure, sure. Yes, definitely. You explained it very well. I'm sure all of us here are very clear with these terms. And if you could tell us how we could be better allies, I think that would be something everyone here would be interested in knowing too.
Yes, that is very important because that is why we are here. So before I tell everybody how you can be better allies, it's important I tell everybody what an ally is. I missed that out in my presentation. I'll remember to add that. So ally is a person who supports the right of LGBTIQA communities. You don't necessarily have to be gay, lesbian, transgender to support LGBTIQA rights. So any person who supports the right of the community are allies. Now, how you can become better allies? One, unlearn. Brianna, can I just request you to type this in the chat box as I say it? One, unlearn.
Sure, 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 sure.
Um, so first, unlearn. Remove any preconceived notions or misconceptions you have regarding the community. And how do we do that? That brings us to point number two, educate. Educate yourself. Nowadays, knowledge is available at the tip of your finger. You have a cell phone, you have Google, you just enter and you get all the knowledge you want. So educate yourself about different sexual and gender minorities. Educate yourself about what are the problems faced by the communities and how you can help. Third, be vocal. Be vocal about your support to the community. You can do this by posting positive feed on your social media handles or in your day-to-day conversations. Four, be inclusive. Invite your LGBTIQA friends to your gatherings, your birthday parties, invite them to your home. What happens with a lot of LGBTIQ? I'll give you a very small example. I say there's a child who has a gay friend in the school, but is very embarrassed to introduce this person to his other friends because he is gay. Children are even scared to introduce their gay friends to their parents because they think that their parents will think that we are also gay. So there's this lot of thing because of which they don't want to, but they avoid inviting the LGBTI friends, thinking that what will others think, and others might think I am also LGBTIQA. So try to be inclusive, try to invite. And another thing, if you are in the position to employ openly LGBTIQA people, and if they deserve that position, do that, employ them. Number five is to call out homophobia. Or you could simply write stand up. Stand up for the LGBTIQA. If you are seeing that somebody is being teased, bullied, discriminated against because of their sexuality, stand up for this person and help this person report these incidences. If in my college, I never had the guts to go to tell my teachers or principal that I was being bullied. If I would have done that, or somebody would have supported me and I would have reported these incidences, I would have maybe completed my education. I am not a graduate. For everyone here, I am just a 12th pass. I could never complete my education because I could not dare go to that place where I was being teased and all these mean and bad things happened to me. So stand up for people from the community if they are being discriminated against, and help them report these incidences. Number six, believe. Number six, believe. Believe that everybody deserves a life of dignity and respect, and we are all humans, and love is love. So those are 6 points which I want all of you all to remember to become better allies to the community.
In 6 points in the chat box that I've heard all that you've said, and I'm going to keep it in mind. So, with this, we come to our main topic, that is gender inclusivity at the workplace. And my first question to you is, under that section, why do you think it is important to have a diverse workforce?
So I'll just say that not just have diverse workforce, but be inclusive. I'll explain you this afterwards, why I say diverse and inclusive. So of course, for all the reasons that I mentioned before, to make lives better for a particular community, that's one. Second, it is good for business. Organizations need to be diverse and inclusive because it has been proven statistically and in various studies that organizations which are diverse and inclusive are more innovative. You know, people who work for these organizations are far more productive, and they are able to hire, retain, and produce quality work from their employees because they feel safer. So for the reasons of good business and for the reasons to hire, employ, and retain talent is why it's important for workplaces to be inclusive and diverse.
Another question that I have for you is what can companies do today so that they are more accepting towards the LGBTQIA plus community?
So now I'll answer you here why I said diverse and inclusive.
Inclusive.
I'll give you a small example. Diversity is hiring a handy-capable person, differently abled person.
Correct.
Inclusivity is having infrastructure for that person to access your offices. If you don't have a ramp, so you are hiring a diverse person, but you are not being inclusive.
Correct.
The difference here, I'll give you another example. You hire a trans person, you hire an intersex person, but you don't have gender neutral toilets or toilets for transgenders or intersex people. So if you want to become inclusive, you need to have, first of all, you need to have a culture of acceptance, which comes by having these conversations and employing people from the community. Second is to have infrastructure, so that these people can access and have workplace protections. See that, make sure that there is no discrimination on the basis of their sexual or gender orientation. And then there is equal rights. If you have spousal benefits, for cisgender heterosexual couples, make sure you have those spousal benefits for homosexual couples also. Now, gay marriages are not legal in India. So a lot of companies might say, see, they are officially married and that is why they get the spousal benefit, but you won't. Here, the companies have to go extra step and they have to make sure while employing, or generally, ask their staff that, look here, we have spousal benefits for cisgender heterosexual people, and we have them for all kinds of couples. But since, the country that we are operating it does not legally sanction it, we would like you to declare who your better halves are. Regardless of the legality, we will still give them spousal benefits. So have equal benefits for everybody. That's one thing. Have workplace protections and have infrastructure. This is something that I think people could do to begin with.
Correct. I think that is how the workplace can be more inclusive and people will feel safer.
Yes.
They'll feel like they have equal opportunities. One more thing that I would like to ask you is, what are the protection norms needed in the workplace for the community?
So just like I mentioned before, you need to make sure that nobody is discriminated against. either in accessing the benefits provided by the company or in any other ways for their sexuality or for their gender identity. So workplace protections need to be regarding these things. There needs to be anti-discriminatory laws in the company. There needs to be clear guidelines regarding how you would punish if there are such practices done. If there is going to be any discrimination, if there is going to be any bullying, then what is it that the company is going? What actions is that the company is going to take against these people? And also, sometimes the person who's working in this organization might not be comfortable to directly come out to their immediate bosses. And I have seen that in many companies, they have these provisions that they could either come out to their boss's boss or their boss's boss. So this way they are not directly coming out to their immediate bosses, but in future, if their immediate bosses discriminate towards them on the basis of their sexuality or gender identity, the senior bosses know in advance that yes, this person is from the community. This is just to make sure that undue advantage is also not taken. Today, anybody who's not performing and their bosses are genuinely trying to punish them, or I don't know what the term is. I'm not a corporate guy, but somebody should not just say that we are gay because to protect themselves. So somebody in the line of management, if they could come out to their HR or their boss's boss, and they should have workplace protections in a way that they don't come out to everybody also, and they are protected also. So that's what I expect.
That's true, very true. And the last question I have is, why do you think it is important for individuals to come out to people working at the workplace, and how they should do it?
Okay, so one of the most important reasons why people should come out, studies have proven that people who are out at workplace are far more satisfied with, enthusiastic about, and proud of the work they do compared to people who are partly out or not out at all. So this is one reason why it is important for you to come out at your workplace, so that you are more productive and you perform well. You don't have the pressure of people finding out. You don't have the fear of somebody outing you or being found out. So you can work with a free mind, and so many other reasons. So that's one reason. Another reason that I feel people should come out, a lot of people don't come out because they think it's not a big deal. Why should I tell when everybody else, nobody says that I am heterosexual? Then why should I say that I'm homosexual? And they feel that it is not a big deal to come out, which is wrong. We live in a country where LGBTIQA rights are not yet given to everybody. And the more people who come out, encourages the discussion around the community and helps make changes in the society at a greater level. It might seem a small step on your end, but it might have a gigantic effect on overall LGBT rights movement. So it is a big deal to come out, and that is why you should come out if you are out in general and if you feel safe. A lot of people, despite of being out otherwise in the society and having no qualms about coming out or no fear, they don't come out thinking that it's not a big deal, but it is a big deal. And how one would come out is that advice is which I tell everybody: make sure of what you're coming out as. Make sure that you are not under immediate danger or harm, or there are no homophobic people in your management. Make sure you have workplace protections, which you talked about earlier, and make sure that the company or organization that you work in has a culture of inclusivity and acceptance and tolerance. So make sure that these things are there, and only then come out.
Great. Thank you so much, Vishal, for everything. I think you've explained everything so meticulously and have covered all the basics right from A to Z. It would be great, guys, if all of you could now ask your questions to Vishal. He's more than happy to answer any questions. Rather, even before the session, when I spoke to him, he said, please tell people whatever questions they have, please tell them to ask me. I'm more than happy to answer them. So go ahead and shoot all of your questions, and Vishal is right here to answer each and every one of them.
Since this is a topic related to sex, sexuality, and gender identity, some people are not very comfortable asking. But what happens is, uh, because of not asking, there might be some misconceptions that you might have, and
Correct.
you might not be able to let go of them, or you might hold some prejudice against the community, or have some misunderstanding. So it's better if you have any questions or anything, you can just ask.
I think Maitri has mentioned in the comment in the chat to some light on disclosing pronouns. You know what pronouns to use and everything. So if you could shade some light.
Yes. So this is a thing that important that we all do is talk about person's preferred pronouns, so that you do not misgender them, or you do not call them double pronouns which they would not like. Now, why is that important? Because uh, I'll give you example of transgender people. For somebody who's born into a particular biological sex and whose gender identity is different, people mispronouncing that gender causes a lot of dysphoria and uncomfortableness to them. So it's important that you refer to people with their correct pronouns. Now, how do you know what somebody else's pronouns are? You know, so you could do two things while introducing yourself. You could say, "Hi, I am Vishal, and my preferred pronouns are he, him." When you introduce yourself like this, the person in front of you will feel comfortable to share their pronouns. Initially, I used to tell people you directly ask people what your preferred pronouns are, but I think what is better is you tell your preferred pronouns, and then they'll tell you their preferred pronouns. So anybody who has a gender identity of a man, most probably or might want to be referred as he, him. Anybody who has a gender identity of a woman might want to be referred as she, her. People who have gender neutral or non-binary might prefer they, them. But again, it's different for different people, and it's always better to either ask, or when you meet them, just tell about your pronouns and they'll tell yours, and this is how you could correctly address people with their preferred pronouns. And this also shows that you are very accepting of the community. This one simple act of asking people their preferred pronouns is something that will make them feel so safe and comfortable with you.
Also, if you could tell, there are certain statements that we randomly use around, but they might be hurtful to the community. So, if some of the statements or sentences that we should avoid, or make sure we're careful while using them.
First of all, one thing that people keep asking me and my partner is, who's the woman in the relationship? This is very nonsensical question, because if I am gay and both of us are men, there is no woman in the relationship. So that's a very silly question to ask. And, uh, when they ask this question, there is so much uh, patriarchy behind this, who's submissive? Because when I ask them, what do you mean by who's the woman? Generally, they have two to three kinds of answer, like who's submissive in sexual position, who cooks, and who likes to do makeup, and who likes to ride bike. So there is so much patriarchy behind this question. A sensible person will never ask this question, because if you talk about me and my partner, even if we have to answer this question, we all have our own roles. Maybe I might be working and he might be looking after a home. So are you going to call him a woman and me a man? And our sexual positions might be reversed. I might be submissive, he might be whatever the other side would be. Then so that's one question that people should refrain from asking, who's the man in the relationship. Another thing that people could refrain from asking is intrusive questions. Like some people have this habit of asking trans people, so have you started your surgery? Are you done with your breast implants? Have you undergone bottom surgery? Uh, I would, request people not to ask such intrusive questions unless you have that kind of a relationship with that person. What you could ask is, are you happy? Do you feel complete? what are the problems you face? What can we do to help the community? So these are some things you could ask rather. I am so sorry. I'm not very good at looking at the chat and having this conversation. So if anybody's messaged anything in the chat, you ask me, then I'll reply quickly. I'm not very good at doing both the things.
Hi Vishal. Before I ask my second question, I just want to thank you for gracing our event with your presence. It has been great listening to you so far. So coming to my question, I just wanted to know, do you think it's insensitive that people just acknowledge the community during the month of June, which is a Pride month, or do you feel it is a welcome change and it's nice to have people acknowledge the community even if it's during just this month? What are your thoughts on this?
My personal thoughts are that, even if you do it during the June month on your social media, I'm fine with it. I'm more than happy. It's a welcome change that people have this conversation, at least in the month of June. But also make sure that 12 months of a year, you don't discriminate. You don't judge people, or you don't, treat people differently. So whether or not you celebrate us all year long, whether or not you have these conversations on our social media handles all year long, make sure to give us the life of dignity and self-respect that we all deserve, and that's about it. And let it just not be about putting up rainbows on your social media platform. Be an ally and do all the 6 things that I asked you, that how you could become a better ally throughout the year.
Vishal, I think I have one question for you.
Yes, Brianna.
Yes, so if tomorrow, say one of my friend or somebody comes out to me or confides in me and thinks that I am someone they'd like to tell first that they're a part of the community, how do you think should I react to them? What would be the most comforting thing to say to them at that time?
First of all, you need to congratulate yourself that something you must have done right, that this person feels safe to come out to you, because it's a very vulnerable thing to do. You're giving a power to the other person, where the other person could take disadvantage of. So you need to feel proud of yourself that something you did right, that this person is feeling safe. Secondly, you need to hear out the person completely and clearly, try to understand what they are trying to come out as, and then maybe probably give them a hug and tell them that, what, I love you regardless of whatever you are. It doesn't matter to me, and you can always talk to me about things, and you are free to share as much as you want and whenever you want. That's what you could do.
I think we should just, act normal in front of them when they come out.
Yeah,
it's very important.
Correct.
Never judge them.
Absolutely.
Very true.
Maybe you could throw a coming out party to them.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think this is a good idea.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any other questions? The floor is all yours.
Also, Brianna, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Enactus, HR College of Commerce, correct?
Yes,
I'm
yes.
sorry, yeah. And thank you, Vaishnavi. Vaishnavi is here. All right. So regardless, thank you everyone who invited me. Thank you, HR College. Thank you, Enactus. And this was amazing. I had a lot of fun myself. Thank you very much.
In fact, Vishal, I think we should thank you for this session. Everyone here has taken back so much more than they already knew. I think everyone during Pride Month just knows, like you said, about all of the rainbows and the colorful flags, but nobody really knows what is behind all of it, real struggles that people have to share. So thanks to you for sharing, your journey and sharing things about gender inclusivity in the workplace. And yeah, that's all. Enactus HRC thanks you. So on behalf of everyone, I'd like to thank you.
Also, if you have any questions, you can DM me on my social media handles. If anyone who's present here, who's from the community and is struggling to reach out, and don't have anybody whom you feel safe to come out to, you can reach out to me. I promise you that I'll keep it confidential and help you in any ways that is possible for me. Also, one thing I would like to tell, if anybody who is present here is from community, if you don't feel like coming out, even that is okay. Uh, not coming out is also okay if you feel that you're unsafe or if you are not sure about it. But I would tell that even if you come out to one person, if you have one person in your life who would understand you, accept you, and you trust, that one coming out to that one person could also do a great deal to your mental and physical health both. So find that one person, come out to that one person, and you see how your life changes.
Very true.